Good morning, dear students. Today we are going to focus on a new topic under vocabulary, synonyms and antonyms. Well, these may sound a bit similar to you because you might have heard this when you have done your schooling or plus two to write some synonyms and antonyms by giving one word to you. Well, let us see in detail whether what a synonym is. When we see the word synonym is a word or a phrase which would be exactly the same or nearly the same or similar meaning as the other word or a phrase in the same language. So this is the example for what a synonym could be. So when we look at certain words here mentioned in the text, see, buy and purchase, need, require, gift and present, understand and comprehend, and so on. Do you see is there any much difference in these two terms each? Like, is there any huge difference between both of them? I don't think so, right? So, have you ever thought before, like, why are there so many synonyms in English language when compared to the usual languages which we speak? For example, we speak Hindi or we speak the regional language as Telugu or any other language, maybe any Indian languages. When we look for, we can hardly find three or four at the most, which would be the synonyms, or yeah, or what we call them as Paryayvachi Shabd in Hindi, right? So I think we can hardly find three or four words, and not just in Hindi but also in our regional languages or Indian languages. So let us see what would be the reason behind why there are so many synonyms in English language. Before we go ahead, we need to understand why or what are the sources of English vocabulary. So when we look at it, we see that major point of words from English, they come from two main sources. One is Germanic language and the another one is Romance, which is Latin based languages. So here we see that English has been influenced by the Germanic languages, and most of the words have been taken from Latin and French languages too. So here we can see the percentage of English words of 29% which have been borrowed from Latin, and 29% from French, and then again 26% from Germanic origin. So this is a percentage of languages which have been borrowed from the foreign languages into English. So here we can see the words like, when we look at these examples which are mentioned here, answer in Germanic would be response in Latinate. Ask would be inquire. Begin would be to commence. Big is large. Help is to aid. Weep is to cry. Forgive is to pardon. So we could see the Germanic or Latinate terms, okay, and also Anglo-Saxon origin terms and French origin terms here. So we can see that there is not much difference between them. But how can these languages be borrowed by the English or the English speakers? Okay, let us look at it. How did they get to know about these terms from German or Latin or French. Okay, let us get to see that. To get to know about that, we have to understand what is the brief history of England. So we see that Latin and French words have entered English language because these people who were the English speakers, the Anglo-Saxons who are mentioned here are said to be the English speakers. Okay, so these people were invaded and ruled by the people who were French speakers. Okay, those French speakers are called as Anglo-Normans. These Anglo-Normans happen to, rule the English-speaking Anglo-Saxon people for few hundred years. Okay, so just as the English people or the British people happen to rule over India and several other countries. They ruled our India for 200 years. So, in the same way, they were ruled in the beginning by these French speaking Anglo Normans. Okay, so similarly, we see that they happen to understand and maybe they might have learned some words from French, and maybe that is the reason they could take up some from some French words from them. Okay, so in the similar fashion, when the Britain or the British people happen to go around and colonize all across the world or different parts of the world, they happen to go around and they happen to borrow words from different languages in every country that they had been to or every region that they had been to. So some of the examples what they might have picked up from our country, India, are bungalow, court, dacoit, jungle, shampoo. So all these are from Hindi or Urdu origin. So in this way, just as Anglo-Saxons or the English speakers were ruled by the French people, they could you know borrow some words from French and Latin and also German. In the similar manner, these English speaking people, when they came down to India and when they went around to the different parts of the world, they happened to borrow words from their language into English and they started using them. And that is the reason wherever they had been, they happened to add that vocabulary or those words into English language. And that is the reason there are n number of words what we can find when we pick any word. For it as an antonym, we have lot of words similarly. Okay, so we will have lots of phrases or words with similar meaning. Okay, but again there is a difference whether when you are using what. For example, if you are using a heavier word in the lighter context, or maybe funny things in a serious mode or serious things on a lighter context, that would be inappropriate actually. Okay, so we need to understand which word to use when and then appropriate things according to the time. So here what we can see is example for one particular word, beautiful, is given to us just to let us understand that there are several synonyms in English language, but they need to be used according to the context. So here we see that there are 20 synonyms on which word? On beautiful. Okay, so let us see what are the other words and in what context we can use this particular word synonyms for this particular word beautiful. Okay, so beautiful is usually used for women, whereas handsome is used for men, and good looking could be used for man and a woman too. Whereas when I say pretty, she looks pretty, then it is little less than beautiful, which means this could be used usually for children and young girls. Whereas when we say charming, it is more to do with manners than the looks. Okay, the way a person behaves and the way a person carries. Okay, the way a person is disciplined or a way a person is groomed, that is going to be charming. Okay, the next word for it is gorgeous. Gorgeous is kind of a hyperbolic term, but it's you know uh, it could be described as a person who's completely perfect, and uh, the most beautiful person could be called as gorgeous. Okay, so all these terms are the usual terms what you usually hear in your day-to-day lives, but we need to understand in which context to use these and when to use these. That is more important for us. Well, when I when we get back to the other definition, which is antonyms, antonyms are the counterpart or the opposite of synonym. Okay, so an antonym is a word or a phrase that has the opposite meaning to another word or phrase in the same language. For example, poor, rich, swift, slow, etc. We have several meanings: high, low, rich, poor, cold, hot, etc. Many opposites are there. The literal word for antonyms is opposite. Okay, so we need to remember these things. I hope you understood the background for the several words in which have been evolved or emerged into English language, and that is the main reason we have several words in English language. It's just because of colonization. All right, I hope you understood this session. We hope to meet you soon in the next session. Thank you.